Welcome everybody to Eye of the Serpent Tarot for another pick a card. So today's pick a card is unashamedly spiritual and actually probably I would say more than anything occult. So when one uses the term occult it means hidden knowledge, hidden mystery, that kind of thing. But in the spiritual area it is the kind of hidden mysteries, the mystery schools, rituals, high magic, what I kind of think of as the scorpionic sort of side of spirituality and of spiritual knowledge. So that's what we're looking at today. What occult mastery and fortune is arising for you now. So what kind of abilities, knowledge, manifestation, whatever it might be, is sort of like starting to arise for you, and how? So hopefully that's of interest. It's inspired simply by getting a new tarot deck and associated Lenormand deck called the Occult Tarot, and you can see 3 major arcana from it there, and you will see the Lenormand as well. This is very much designed to be about mysteries, about the occult, about what is hidden, and it's sort of a deck I think I'm already starting to use in private readings where very significant magical sort of energy and so forth is manifesting. So that's really what we're looking at here. We may well look at very material areas that it's manifesting in and so forth, but that's the underlying heartbeat, I suppose, of the reading. And what is it? How is it sort of rising for you? And what gifts or responses are associated with it, and what shadows should you be aware of as well, because in this sort of area of spirituality there are, I guess, potential risks maybe, or risk may not be the right word, but you need to have good boundaries, you need to understand the implications of choices and so forth. So that's what we'll be looking at. But as I say, think of this as a very Scorpio-like reading. That's rather than say Pisces. So it's not so much love and light. It's more what's the kind of power and energy and knowledge, sort of as a drumbeat in your spiritual path and in your life. It's probably all I need to do to introduce it. So what I did do is that I shuffled the deck and asked for a major arcana card from the deck to be a way in and to help with the choice. So pile number 1, we have the Toll Keeper, which is actually an additional major arcana card in this particular deck. For pile number 2, we have Justice, and for pile number 3, we have Strength. You can, of course, go to more than one reading. There may be different types of messages and occult mastery and fortune that you need to be aware of and be able to access. So that's up to you. But when you know what reading or readings you want to go to, the timestamps, as always, are in the description box below, and I'll see you there. Welcome, pile 1, to your reading. So you came to the reading with the Toll Keeper. I guess some of you might have come out of curiosity for the different card, and others because you always come to pile 1, and some because this energy and this image drew you, or Spirit just guided you there. It's an interesting card, I've got to say, right out from the gate in this type of reading, because the Toll Keeper is about having reached a point of transition, a point of choice, a point of evolution, a point of graduation, whatever it might be. It's like you're on the threshold, but there is a price to pay to cross that threshold. And perhaps the most mythologically famous Toll Keeper would be, say, death on the River Styx, or something like paying the ferryman to go to the other side. Now, this is not talking about death. It's not talking about that. This is something in your life, but it is suggesting that you are ready to, as I say, graduate, evolve, move up, take on more powers or more fortune or whatever it might be. But there is something you have to let go of or sacrifice or pay to do it. It's like there is an exchange of energy, an exchange of fortune or something like that associated with what's going on now. Now, as it could be very simple. It could be that, you've decided that you want to join a particular magical order or spiritual group, and there's some money to be paid to learn its basics, and you need to do that. You need to be prepared to put money and time into it. It might be that. But it could also be taking on a position of power in some way. And what does that mean in terms of your time? And what does that mean in terms of relationships with others that shift because you take on the position of power, that kind of thing. So it just depends what it is. So one of the things we're first going to do is we're going to get 4 cards from the Lenormand, the Occult Lenormand. And I'm deliberately shuffling these and dealing them out in in each one rather than having them underneath, because I want to have all the cards, so to speak, in play for each, in case there's some similar energies across the piles. So let's get a little bit of an idea of the fortune energy that's around you, given that, as I say, you're at a point of choice, change, evolution, transition, but with a cost. So dog, clover, animus, that's female energy, letter. Okay, so good news. Well, maybe it's good news, maybe it isn't, actually. But we'll see what we get with tarot as we go along. I would first of all say, whenever you see dog, you would definitely think there was some good news associated with it, because that means there's a loyal companion. This could be a number of things. If you are crossing a threshold into occult knowledge, mastery, and so forth, it could be that you have a very strong familiar or spirit guide animal, particularly of the canine variety, but certainly something that is loyal. But there is someone or something loyal to you. Now, the reason I say it could be that it's not good news on that level is that what you have to sacrifice? Do you have to move away from someone that you really care about and you know is loyal to move into whatever you're meant to do? And a good example of that could be, if you suddenly got a promotion and you've been working with someone really closely, you got the promotion, they didn't. What does that do? That's a possibility. But I would think by and large, Lenormand is very much influenced by the cards next to it. And we've got Clover, which is ultimately the lucky card, good fortune next to that. So this is good fortune that's coming in. Even if there is a price to be paid, I would say you have the good fortune of loyal companions and those loyal to you associated with it. So I would say that is more likely than not. Just going to move these up so we've got a bit more room. There seems to be a woman associated with this. This could be you if you're female. Otherwise, there could be a woman who's important. She could be the loyal person. Or she could be someone bringing news or an offer, because we have the letter next to that, and that's what that is all about. It's about news coming, an offer, that some sort of correspondence that is often very positive as well. And I would say overall is positive. I would say overall, even though you've come to the toll keeper, the general energy around this is positive. It's a fortunate move. There's information coming to you that helps you make the transition, take on the opportunity, build on it, probably coming from someone who is either a female or has very strong female qualities. Or as I say, this could be you, but I suspect it is someone else because I think they're bringing the news. But in any case, this is very positive, I would say. So I like that, because of all the major arcana choices, you were the bravest because you came to the one that was unknown. And the Toll Keeper, as I say, is in itself a little bit of an equivocal card about whether it's a good card to get or not. So we're going to look with tarot now. So we're going to ask, what is the kind of source or the kind of origin of this mastery and fortune now? Like, where is this arising from? We're then going to have a look at what gifts or responsibilities and so forth are involved in it for you. And then we're going to have a look at what shadow or sort of like issues, should be considered with it. So a little bit more about what is this about. I think it's information, an offer of some sort. It looks fortunate. Looks like you have good people around you, but it does have a price. So a little bit more about what that is about for you. Six of Wands reversed, the Magician reversed, Two of Wands reversed. Wow, there's a lot reversed here. Death, the Hermit reversed. Okay. So the first thing I would say, and maybe this is part of the fortune around it, is that you have the choice whether or not to take this on. I feel like that, given that is the one upright card, and it doesn't matter, like reverse cards, the way I read, reverse cards aren't in and of themselves a problem. They're usually just either unmanifest or somewhat hidden energy. And we're talking about hidden energies here anyway, so it might be that we find we get a higher than normal proportion of reverse cards in these readings. But you definitely have the choice, and the choice around timing as well. But it is a big transition. I mean, the Death card will tell you that. There is something about this that once you've actually crossed the threshold, paid the toll, there's no going back. And it brings what you are doing more out into the public in some way, or you start communicating it in some way. So if this was you moving up the ladder within or entering some sort of initiate pathway or something like that, I don't know that would come, because I feel like this is saying that this is more public, and a lot of that is very, very hidden. So I feel like this is more about something in the material world. It's less spiritual than material. Now, it has an occulted energy. Your occult energy, your occult mastery, your occult fortune is what's bringing you there. Hidden tides in the pattern of your life with the major arcana and with the death card in particular. But it seems to be public in some way. I think that it actually comes off the back of where you haven't been recognised, because we've got the Six of Wands here, or where you haven't won something due to other parties not being honest, or you having to work out. This could be that you have been working on magical things, manifestation and so forth. Given the nature of this reading, I'm going to very much lean into these things rather than just the pragmatic or the practical. You may well have been doing a lot of work on your magical ability, your occult ability, your spiritual ability, and not having seen results. And you've lost a bit of the way. You don't know like what to do with that, but you didn't give up. So I feel as though it's almost like if you see the toll keeper as someone who is a kind of a judge in a way, saying, when are you ready? It's like seeing someone has actually tried and failed a number of times is almost a precursor to when it works. So I feel like this is, if you've tried various spiritual things, to manifest or to heal something or to develop spiritually or to develop gifts, you've actually been dealing with quite a few of the slings and arrows, so to speak. It hasn't always worked, or you've been even dealing with people you couldn't trust. This is because we have the dog and the clover. This is going to be an opportunity to use this ability in some way and to transition into how it actually works, getting into the flow with people that you can trust. There may in fact be leaving one group of people, one organisation, leaving family if family isn't supporting you, if you feel kind of in a strange land or whatever, and going and finding, like making the transitions, sacrificing what didn't work, the people that didn't work, the connections that didn't work, but not giving up on what you need to do on the transition itself and going out into the world and doing something else. So I feel like you are giving up those things that didn't work, the approaches that didn't work, but I also think maybe people that you couldn't trust. So that's why it looks so fortunate, even though that was a bit of an equivocal card, because I feel like the sacrifice is not that hard to do. You do have to accept that certain people and certain things that you've done were not the right path for you. They didn't work and they're not going to work. But not giving up on what you want to do spiritually, that unlocks the door, that gives the key, and that takes you out into the world and makes it happen. So the sacrifice is partly egoic, letting go of thinking, I can do everything, I have every spiritual gift, I have every power, blah, 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 and accepting that we all have some and not everything. And in a sense, making it less about who's the most spiritual or who's the most powerful, who can manifest the most. Actually, like, it's not about that. It's about the transition and bringing this and manifesting it in your world. There's some sacrifice of ego here, I think, and maybe sacrifice of those that maybe triggered the ego side. So I think that's what we're looking at. So it's the source of it all is you understanding your tenacity and bringing something out into the world is more important than winning. That's what it seems to be saying to me. That's what takes you across the threshold. So what are the gifts and responsibilities involved in this then? That's the Four of Wands reversed, the Four of Swords, Six of Pentacles reversed, the Devil, the Page of Cups reversed. Okay, all right. This is why we had, I think, the dog and the clover right at the beginning. A lot of this is going to have to do with who you connect with in this energy, who you connect with and who you separate out from. Because right from the beginning, like when we look at the kind of the gifts or the responsibilities, part of it is finding your own way rather than the way of your family or the groups that you've been in, going within rather than without. So the way to this threshold is within rather than trying to prove something in the world. Like what it feels like to me is trying to do magic, trying to do manifestation, whatever it is, and trying to prove that you have abilities by always doing it in the external world, trying to get an outcome in the external world and just hitting a brick wall because you're dealing with other people, other egos and so forth. So the gifts are not about finding your community. The gifts are about finding your personal path and going within. So that's part of it. But having said that, you are meant to use this with others. It's just the right others. Six of Pentacles reversed is saying to me, those that are equals, not those that are more powerful than you. This does not feel like someone joining a magical order and becoming an initiate and then waiting to be an adept and then waiting to be a master or a magus or whatever. This feels like someone who has determined that their own internal ability, knowledge and so forth is what they have to rely on rather than other people, believing that they are worthy of doing it, but taking it into the material world and either dispassionately, so it's like it's not about, connections with others. If others are loyal to you, fine, but otherwise you're not worried, you just keep on the path, or to try and bring heart back to something that is very material. So it could be that there's something that your gifts, the responsibility is to go within and find the power and the energy to look at the external world and look at how to bring heart energy back to that. Rather than trying to just magically make something happen, it's more, how do I reawaken the heart in a very material world? That seems to be the key. And it's an interesting paradox in a way if that's the case, because it feels like you have to leave behind people in the past to find the right people in the future. But it's partly, I would say, that the people in the past were a bit heartless. And to be honest, maybe so were you. And I'm not meaning that in a bad way, but I feel like if a lot of the spiritual practice was kind of focused in a way on who wins, who's the best, and like a lot of people go through that when they first start doing spiritual stuff and they realize that they've got a few gifts or whatever, it suddenly becomes, oh, I'm everything, And then eventually people calm down and realize we all have different gifts and different abilities. And then at that point, you can like share with others and see others as equals or whatever. So it's partly to do with that. But I do think that there's something also about taking this out into the world. So you do have a responsibility. So what shadow or issues around this? If you actually ironically become the successful magician by going within and just living, like walking the talk in the world and bringing heart to the world, then the power does come to you. So as I say, it's quite paradoxical. Your whole reading is quite paradoxical. It's only by letting go of wanting this that you'll ultimately get it. But the pathway is different to what you think. But what's the shadow that you need to be aware of? Seven of Wands reversed. Knight of Wands reversed. Eight of Wands. Gee, this is all about what you create in the world. King of Swords. Okay. You have to, there's something very interesting in this energy. I just feel like this is a very internal thing of shedding a skin, almost like a snake. You shed a skin and then you are vulnerable in a way, but then you find a different way to have this power. And then you've got to work out, well, what do I do with that when I have it? So as I say, you become a magician, not by trying to be a magician, but by trying to be in the world and live in the world. What are the shadows? Sometimes fear. Fear might slow you down. Fear might make you feel that you're putting creative energy where it's not going to work. The thing that was pushing all of this is feeling like it didn't work. It's like you've got to almost suspend disbelief. When you go through the toll, if you confront the sort of death card, the transition and go out in the world, you've got to go out to the world almost not naked, but without any guarantees. And then you will be successful, I believe. But it's like there is always the risk of like slowing yourself down or going, no, it's too hard. If you can get past that, you can move quickly. And like then the only thing you have to be sure about is to remain righteous, to do this, to have learnt the lesson. Like what this is really talking about. I can see how the paradox operates here. The people who've come to this reading have a very strong magical manifestation ability. You actually do. You've been blocked because it has been coming to date more on trying to prove that to yourself and less on what would you create. By forcing you to focus on what to create, something that is brings the heart back to the material world rather than just being a kind of I win because I've got all the toys and I manifest sort of thing. By forcing that, you actually come into the ability and having it, and it puts a brake on you misusing the ability. But you have to face the fear that it might not work, that like even this may not work to do it. But it's all about bringing you to a point of having the mastery and being able to hold it in a righteous way rather than in a way just to prove I'm the most psychic or whatever. So that's the thing here for you. So you really are on the threshold of something, but it's almost by giving up on the spiritual stuff and just living in the world and trying to bring the heart into the world, that's when the door unlocks, and that's when the key unlocks. But it does take courage to do it, because you put a lot into thinking, I'm going to manifest this. And you've almost got to let it go and go, if it doesn't happen, it doesn't happen, and genuinely feel that, because I think it will happen then, but you've got to genuinely feel it. It's got to be genuine. When you have when your mind has connected with your spirit and it's in alignment, it will move quickly. When you are in fear, it will not move quickly. Okay, so let's get, with the magic and mediums, a couple of focus areas sort of in kind of spiritual, occult, magical ability that might be helpful for you. Guide. Okay, that's interesting. We've got the dog there too. I think you've got a really powerful canine energy guide. So trust that you have a guide that's helping you and one that you can trust in. Don't have to do this completely alone. And respect for the process, respect for the energy, respect for others. That's actually the way to unlock this. This is the way to get all the fiery energy, rather than, and like, accepting you may never become the greatest one. You might be here, but it's still worth doing, is the thing that would be likely to make you the greatest one. But by the time you get there, you don't care about that. You don't worry about that. You're just living the life. Okay, so let's get a couple of messages from beyond the veil, so to speak, as well, on an occult level for you to be aware of. Altar, keep the faith. Okay, yeah. That's the thing. You've got to keep the faith in something bigger than yourself potentially, or keep the faith in yourself so you don't lose the courage, but also keep the faith in this being about something bigger than yourself. And I think the guide energy is helping you with that. And labyrinth, choose a clear direction. Okay. This may be the other thing. Like, the other reason it may have been failing to date is you might have been trying to be all things to all people and do everything all at once and try all the things. It's more like, okay, if I'm going to cross the line and I know I'm going to do this in my life, what would living my principles and my beliefs and my spirituality mean? And I'm just going to follow that path. And I know eventually it's going to lead me where it needs to go. Keep the faith and keep it simple. That's basically what this is saying. Okay, let's just get a little bit of Astro Dice energy for you as well. So the first house, so this is about you, who you are in the world. Uranus, what changes are going to happen? Sagittarius, that free your energy. All this Wands energy, for some of you, is very creative actually. Doing creative types of work may well be a way of doing it. And then secondly, we have the seventh house. So yes, okay, so you had the first house, you, and then the seventh house, your relationship with others. South node, moving away from certain people. Taurus, moving towards those that you can manifest something in the real world. Like it feels like maybe you've been spending a bit too much time with people who kind of like spend all their time talking about spiritual stuff and the ether and grand ideas, but aren't in the world, aren't doing anything. It's time to actually move towards those who are in the world so that you can actually do something with this. Okay, so given that, what we're going to do is we're just going to finish up with looking at a very powerful but potentially sort of like mysterious or even dark sort of energy guide around you. So I want you to choose a number between 1 and 3, because I'm going to deal out 3 cards from the Deep, Dark and Dangerous deck, and depending upon which you choose, this is a guide or an energy also to be aware of for you. So pause if you need to, because I'm about to deal them out. So for number 1, we have Mithras. Oh, look at that. It's about loyalty, amongst other things. There is something about what to be loyal to. For number 2, we have Sybil. And for number 3, we have Vampire. Oh, that's interesting. So if you chose number 1 with Mithras, Mithras is a god that it's not really sure whether or not he was actually a Roman god or became something in Persia or India. But he's a god of sacrifice and loyalty, and that's kind of the energy here. What do you sacrifice? What do you remain loyal to? That's part of this. He's also the god of the ordinary Roman soldier. So who are you in the world? This is what this is talking about. So in the book, when they talk about this, they say to be successful, each man had to rely on the others next to or near him for holding the line and the plan. So there's sort of something here about finding the right people to mix with and being in the real world and doing something together. But it is about sacrifice. It is actually a god or a deity that some people think there was a very similar sort of storyline in many ways to the Christian storyline as well. So this is a god of loyalty, sacrifice, and higher aspirations, but as I said, in the world. So that's what you kind of maybe look into Mithras if you want to look at sort of things to understand and learn. There could be something in that original sort of cult and so forth that is of use to you. But otherwise, I think it's just picking up that the right people, the right connections, the right guides, and being in the world is the answer here. If you chose Sybil, this is about bringing in occult, sort of predictive, prophetic, oracular ability, because that's what Sybil is. Sybil is effectively a fortune teller or an oracular entity. So the skill that you're meant to bring in is something about understanding what's coming, seeing what's coming. But again, to make that work, rather than sort of sitting in your room and thinking, oh, I saw that coming, but I didn't tell anybody, you actually need to get out there. So this, for some of the people who've come to pile 1, this could be sort of like analogous to you're sitting and, using divination and you're seeing what's going on in the world, but you're not actually showing anybody or telling anybody. So it would be saying, to be really effective, you need to, I don't know, start a YouTube channel or do something like that and get the message out there, because part of this is about having it make a difference, having that ability make a difference, rather than just thinking having it in itself can make you manifest things. If you chose number 3 with Vampire Hunger, I think it's really asking you to think about 2 things. One is how is the hunger towards this ability been driving you and draining you? And had you almost like close off that hunger and make it more about what you give rather than what you take in. So that could be the energy here. And you have to give up, as I say, on wanting to win or wanting to be the best and become just, I want to manifest what I believe. So the hunger so much for recognition isn't there. Or it could be that you're being held back by others that are doing this. Others are feeding off you, and you need to transition away from them, because you're not ever going to fulfill their hunger. They're just going to keep feeding on you. So you need to get apart from that. So very interesting energy you have here, but it kind of makes sense with the Toll Keeper. I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, Pile 2, to your reading. So you came to the reading with Justice. So one of the things I find really interesting about this particular portrayal of Justice is that you have a figure who looks like she, a bit like the High Priestess, is between 2 columns, but these columns are both white, and she has a dark background. In this deck, most backgrounds are light. So what I find really interesting in the way that this is portrayed is this is a figure that is, I think, finding light in darkness and bringing light to darkness, but doing it in such a way that they still remain hidden. Because the other thing that's interesting is you see how dark her face is. You don't really see, or his face, it could be either gender really. You don't see that. Normally you see Lady Justice has a blindfold on, so she doesn't see. But in this deck, I feel it's more that she isn't seen, but she is bringing light and balance and the sword of justice to something. So I feel there's something in your mastery and fortune that is about from an almost hidden place, helping to bring light and understanding in some way. Now, that doesn't mean you can't have, a public profile or whatever if you want it, but I feel that your methods, your strategies, your knowledge is quite hidden. So it may very well be that if you were using sort of occult magical ability or spiritual ability or principles, it would be they were kind of hidden. People saw the intellectual saying, because justice has a very intellectual feeling, the intellectual outcome, not knowing that what is underneath all of that is a very strong sense of spiritual purity and spiritual balance and spiritual justice. So it feels, but it could also be that you work very much behind the scenes in something. People don't really understand you. You're quite mysterious, but they also trust you because in the end, there's sort of something, even though you're not that well seen or known, you seem to be right. You seem to be coming from something. And as I say, you seem to bring light out of the darkness. So I think it's an interesting energy. Now, we're going to use the Lenormand to see a bit about the fortune that's happening now. If your mastery is bringing light into the darkness, clarity into the darkness, without even somehow being seen that you're doing it, or as I say, your methods are not clear or whatever it is. So you keep yourself quite private, but you make the issue very visible. Let's put it that way. What is the fortune energy around that? So I decided not to shuffle and deal out Lenormand and just sort of see what they were when I turned them over at the beginning, because I thought there might be cards that are needed across all three. I don't know whether that's going to happen, but we'll see. But we're just going to get 4 Lenormand cards to get a bit of a sense of the fortune around this mastery. Firstly, Fox. Okay, yeah, there's someone who you have to be careful of. There's a kind of or you have to be crafty. Now, it could be you, because as I say, you may be in a situation here where you're using your ability in such a way that you can't show yourself or you can't show your motive. So you may be being crafty. Otherwise, there could be someone who you can't trust. So you need to be aware of that. Secondly, we have Bear. Whatever this is big. It's a big issue. There's a protective feeling about this bear, I feel. But I almost feel like you're the bear because I feel like the dark, and then the light is other people. I feel like you have a very big protective responsibility of others in one form or another. And that's why you have to be careful. Again, like you're less likely to be the fox. It's more likely to be that the fox is someone you can connect with, and maybe you need to connect with the way that this is portrayed, but you also need to understand implications of that. Then what else do we have? Garden. This is something that is done publicly. So this may also be why you keep some of your methods a bit private, because this has to be done publicly. It's done socially. It has some social impact. It could be social justice in some way, quite literally. Otherwise, you may need to mix with other people in a sort of like more convivial atmosphere to bring about what you need to do, or with groups of people around occult study or something like that. And Tower. This is something that is very solid. You are very solid. You are very strong. Tower means the opposite in Lenormand to what it means in the tarot. So it's not about things breaking down. It's actually quite the opposite. This is either that there are completely set in stone social rules that you have to be able to work within, or the law that you have to work within with justice or something like that. So that could be what's going on, and yet you have to be careful of those to trust in this area, and you have big aims that you're trying to bring about, but it's in a very, very well established, hard to move, hard to shift edifice. And I sort of feel like there you might be the one coming up to it, sort of going like, part of what I have to do now is to be able to go in and exist within its social rules, but somehow, like this bird, liberate something in some way or bring justice to it in some way. So it could be a dark tower, just like it looks there. Or the tower for you may be your knowledge. Like I sort of wonder too whether the dark energy in these cards, your knowledge is what keeps you a little bit hidden while you're doing this and makes the issue more important or more visible than you. This may be the source of your knowledge, feels like very ancient, stable, sure sort of, like understanding knowledge and so forth, that you went as an initiate and now you are ready to move forward to be in the world and that kind of thing. But there's sort of something here, I think, about either having to uphold an established system, but also protect people in it from when it could be corrupted, or you taking your knowledge to do something like that. So I feel like this group, if you're not working in a legal field or a social justice field or something like that, there's still something where you are innately more righteous, but you have to be careful about what you show to others. So we're going to use tarot to go in a little bit more detail. We're going to look at the source of the occult mastery and fortune in a little bit more detail. We're going to have a look at what gifts and responsibilities are involved, and we're going to have a look at what shadow could be involved for you, because there's always shadow when we're talking about occult mastery. So a little bit more about what it is. The Hermit, Death reversed, Knight of Pentacles reversed, Three of Swords, Ace of Swords, Strength. Yeah. Look at that. The strength there, very similar to the Bear. But for you, there is some form of higher level that actually, there's like a step up associated with this, or this might be what is hidden. Like, I'm not saying, everybody who's come to this is some sort of earth angel or whatever, but I find it really interesting that when we have the Strength card and it's a lion, so the lion is going into battle, then the kind of energy there is angelic, whereas it's more like an initiate there. So I sort of feel as though you take your strength, and there's a kind of angelic connection. I think that you as a group have connections to angelic energy, to be the lion, to be the support, to be the one courageous enough to help others. And you're helped by the angels and have that angelic energy around you or as part of you, but you also help others who are able to kind of connect in with it. But it just interests me, the similarity in the depiction. So it is a spiritual thing. It's like it's probably got something to do with, as I say, the law, the structures of things, the ways of the world or whatever, but it is actually very, very spiritual. You don't have any choice about it either. This is sort of something that is so innate to you. It might be why you have to be a little bit hidden, but it is so innate to you to do this that you have to do it. It's not a matter of choice. It's not even changing anything for you. It's the next logical step on a path that you've been on for quite a long time. It may not be right now. The fortune right now might be a very specific thing you're doing, because I feel as though it's not your long-term thing, but whatever battle you're doing at the moment, you can't not choose to do. It may take you a little bit off your path, but it's necessary. And I feel like this, to me, that the Three of Swords here and the Ace of Swords makes me feel like, particularly with justice, a Wisdom of Solomon type decision operating here. So I feel like there's something that has to be cut out, left behind, and something that has to be almost like theoretically reborn, and you have to have the strength to do it. So I'm sort of trying to think of an example. Like, say you were in a workplace and you are looking at the rules within the workplace and what is just. Maybe you would be a manager or something like that, and people come to you with different propositions. There are some that cannot go forward. They aren't right. They aren't well-founded. And there's one that has to go forward. But that actually means that you have to, in a sense, make the decision that might hurt or feel like it's hurting others, may even make others disloyal, that you need to be aware of. This might be the fox energy. You might create the fox by choosing one side rather than the other. But you have to do it. You have to do it because this is part of who you are. You are here to shed light on a situation and get the right choices being made. So let's see what gifts and responsibilities are associated with that for you. Four of Cups, King of Cups, the Hanged Man reversed, Five of Cups reversed, Nine of Cups reversed, okay, so There's some interesting, as I say, figures in history that I'm thinking of with this, because I was definitely thinking of something like the Wisdom of Solomon. And the Wisdom of Solomon was a high magician, by the way, so using magical sort of energy, and probably most wouldn't have known that when he was doing what he was doing, he was using magic and connecting with angels and so forth as well. So there's something a little bit Solomon-esque. There's also something a bit Arthurian about this with the King of Cups. I feel as though there is a sense of emotional healing that you are meant to do, even if you have to take hard decisions. You're meant to be able to hold to what is emotionally mature rather than getting sort of stuck emotionally. So I feel as though for most of you, there is an emotional cost associated with this. It's like you're being asked to choose between two parties that maybe you like them both. You know, maybe you would want to be able to support both, but you can't. You can't. And you may lose, you know, like somebody who might have been a friend may become an enemy, and you're going to have to think differently about them and like process the disappointment. And that might be part of the responsibility of when you have to think differently. If you can't agree with everybody, you have to take a choice. You have to make a ruling. You've got to be able to deal with the emotional fallout of that. And so it's not so much that it's a responsibility, but it's an understanding that you might have had a very pure dream where everybody was aligned and heading in the one direction, but there's something about, it's like the getting of wisdom. You have the wisdom with the Solomon-esque thing in a way, but it's also the getting of wisdom that part of going towards justice means that you are going to have to sometimes choose a side. And wherever you can, you try and do that without showing yourself, so it's not personal. But I feel like there's something that is potentially personal going to be around this, and you're going to have to process that. So what shadow do you need to consider given that? The Emperor reversed, the High Priestess, the Fool reversed. Wow, it's heavy. The Empress reversed. Wow. Okay, for some of you, I'm going to something very specific, so I'll say that first. For some of you, this is about children. So for some of you, this is about, you know, like if you have children and like there's sort of like one that you can support and another that's doing something you can't support or something like that, or letting children go forward and do what they do, even if you want to protect them, but they need to be able to make their own choices. There could be something like that because we've got the Emperor and the Empress reversed. So this may become a particular issue when it's with your children or with family members, or, you know, being called to choose between the argument of your mother or your father as well. So wherever it's family, it can definitely become a shadow thing. Otherwise, this is something you've seen before. You've seen it before, so you can get that objectivity, and that's good, but a shadow of this may be refusing to take on the sovereignty and do it, and saying, yeah, and kind of hiding behind the sort of spirituality and going, I've seen this before, you go off and work it out yourself, because you are actually meant, I think, to influence the outcome or make a choice, and you are going to have to show yourself a bit. So you might try and stay hidden. You might try and delegate it to others. You might try and say, I've seen this before, and so, you know, like you've got to work it out because, you know, like I'm not going to make the decision for you. You've got to learn from it. There are a number of escape clauses to you taking on this responsibility, but this is part of your development and part of you really building your spiritual and occult ability and your knowledge, because you really do. You would make the right decision. It's just that there's some sort of emotional cost to it, and so and there could be a loss of an ally or a friend, something like that associated with it. But the biggest risk for you, the biggest shadow, is to avoid making that choice. But yet for your development and so forth, you need to make the choice. You don't really have the choice about whether to make the choice. Like even if you tried to sort of hide and not make the choice, it would still seem like you were making a choice. So you may as well make it. So let's get you some magical sort of like abilities or focuses that could help. Cleanse. Okay, so clear the energy, cleanse this. Understand there is emotional stuff. There's emotional mess around this, and you could be sort of, you know, kind of spiritually being impacted, you know, like and influenced as well. So cleanse your environment to have as much clarity as possible. And attraction, okay, be aware, yeah, okay. That's why you can't avoid it, actually. If you try and, it's the law of attraction. If you basically attract the sense you're attracting what you need to do this, because that's who you are. You are a kind of person who is meant to make those sort of Solomon-esque decisions. So you're going to attract those sort of things to you. If you start to try and push that away, you push away that ability because you're attracting people who want someone else to make the decision. So this is very important to you and your power. You need to be aware. You can't kind of walk away from it. Let's see a couple of messages from Beyond the Veil for you. Roots, ground yourself. Yeah, like you can't just ground yourself, get ready, be strong. You do have the strength for this. But it's very root chakra. It's very, like kind of Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's very much about security. It's very much about the foundations of things. Don't let the emotional stuff get in the way. And piano, listen to your heart. Like your heart will bring you back to what is right here. You do need to listen to it, but you need to ground yourself. But you're still going to have to make the decision. And your heart will tell you what the right decision is, and that'll connect you to the angelic energy as well too. But it's not easy. This is not an easy one, because I think you're used to being able to do this without it being so personal, but there's something personal coming up. I think that's what's coming through. Let's get you some astrology help. So we have the 8th house, yeah, the sort of occult spiritual stuff, and the hidden stuff, being hidden, Gemini, like having the two sides of it, the bringing the light but also staying hidden. South Node, you're going to have to kind of come a bit more forward and be a bit more seen. This situation is not going to, you've got this huge power and you've been able to do it so often, but like there's something about this situation where you've got to move away from being hidden and come out and say more, be seen more. And 11th house, yes, connecting with others, socially and so forth. Neptune, spiritual abilities, Aries. Okay, so there is a way to take this forward with people spiritually and to connect to, the social sort of side of it. This is the garden sort of energy by being a leader, like leading out. But that's what you're being asked to do. You're meant to lead out at this point, particularly spiritually or kind of morally. What is the ideal? You're meant to do that. Okay, so given all of that, pile 2, because it's not easy, I don't think, what we're going to finish with is some sort of like deeply occultic guide energy for you. So we're using the Deep, Dark and Dangerous deck, and I'm going to deal out 3. So I want you to choose a number between 1 and 3, and that will be a synthesizing message and also a guide energy for you in taking on this mastery and fortune from the occult side of your spirituality. So pause if you need to, because I'm about to deal out. So if you chose number 1, we get vampire. If you chose number 2, we get kraken. Wow, yeah, this is full on. And if you chose number 3, we get Ku-Sith. Okay. The vampire, I think most of us know what a vampire is. So if you chose number 1, I think the thing about this is to understand the emotional needs that you have to process for this. Because you could be the vampire and be feeding off situations. And if you're not aware that you're doing that, then that could stop you from making decisions that would cut off the source of that. So you need to think about how to sustain yourself without needing others so that you can sit within what is your true power, which is the capacity to be fair and to be just. If something is feeding off you, then you need to be aware. That's probably the fox energy. You need to be aware of that and what influence it is having. And what would it mean to dislodge that energy from you? So if you chose number 1, this whole thing is asking you to think about, this is all about, you are normally very powerful and just, and you bring light into the darkness and stay a bit hidden yourself. So it's no ego around any of this. That's not the issue for you. But it is that you like to stay a bit hidden. But when you are hidden, and while things are hidden, other hidden things can be there. So I think it's being aware of that. In some ways, not dissimilarly, if you chose number 2, the kraken is also about the hidden depths underneath something. But this is about power. This is about what power is beneath the surface, in the mystery. In the mystery, you have power in the mystery, but the power may be when you show something and when you don't. And so it's sort of like if the Kraken was to sort of rise around a ship, then the ship would be in awe of that. Other times it stays hidden. There's something very similar about you. And I think it's asking you to think about the power that you have and why you keep it hidden and when it might be judicious not to. If you chose number 3, Kusith is a dog of the Fae, and it's not a good idea to hunt it. So it's because it can bring vengeance on you. So there's something very wild and untamed in whatever it is that you're dealing with. And you do have to be careful of backlash with Kusith. And I think that goes again to the fox energy, a bit like a canine sort of energy here. There is something here that there is the potential for retribution unless you can show the fairness of it. If you're not going to choose in that one's direction, you need to be aware of that. On the other hand, they don't stay particularly hidden. They make a hell of a racket. So this is likely, particularly in a social situation, if you are moving towards something that the kind of fox energy doesn't like, it's likely to be very, very vocal. So be prepared for that. Be prepared. And that might be why you have to come forward, because you may know you cannot judge on its side, but you equally can't be as removed. So that may be what we're looking at. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings. Welcome, pile 3, to your reading. So you came to the reading with strength. And it's interesting, this card came up in one of the other readings. And I was making the point, I find it really interesting that this is sort of an angelic sort of figure. And then you've got a kind of, obviously the lion is sort of like shadowy there. So I feel as though there's a few things that this energy makes me feel. It makes me feel that there's got something, your occult mastery and your fortune has something to do with the balance of your kind of more angelic, high order energy of the light and also your shadow. And your shadow doesn't have to be bad. And particularly in this kind of a balance where those two energies are working in sync with each other, that's a very positive thing. So when we talk about light and dark, dark doesn't have to be evil. It can just be powerful and, scorpionic, as I said, this whole reading is going to be, or of the depths of the underworld, all those sort of things. They're not necessarily bad. They are a part of what creation is, spirituality is, and so forth, but it's in balance in some way. So this could be a mastery of that, a mastery of neither being so angelic and pure that you are not part of your kind of raw, powerful energy, but also having the raw, powerful energy balanced by a kind of a sort of more angelic moderating force. So it could be about that, coming to terms with your own power and balancing it, your own light and shadow. It could also be helping others in some way. For some reason, as I look at this, I'm thinking of Beauty and the Beast for some reason. So for some of you, you might have a particular gift or power or mastery and fortune connected with how you can see the good in people that others don't understand or that feel cursed or whatever, and turn that around and bring out what is positive in them. It depends on how this energy plays out. But whatever it is, there's an occult strength to this mastery and to the fortune. So let's first of all get a bit of an idea of the fortune. So I'm using the Lenormand deck, that is the sister deck to this tarot. I'm just going to draw 4 cards out. I decided not to deal them out ahead of time and have them underneath because I thought it's possible that sometimes the same card might come up across a couple of readings and be needed, so we're just dealing them out. This will give us a bit of an idea about some of the dynamics of how your occult mastery and fortune are about to play out, and then we'll use tarot to get a bit more detail. So firstly, coffin, something needs to shift. Coffin is not death or anything bad. It's just simply that things have been stagnant. So some of this strength might be to stir things up a bit, to get things moving. Something needs to shift and move in your life. Letter, there's likely to be some sort of communication coming to you, or you send some communication. Either way, communication is going to help this. So I think most likely you're going to hear something that makes you know you've got to shift and change things, or sort of like wakes you up a bit. But on the other hand, it could be that you decide I have to stir things up by communicating in some way. Rider. Okay, yeah, there's definitely communication. They're both about that. Letter is some sort of like communication coming towards you or invitation coming towards you or that you're sending out. Rider is about information. Like something is definitely about to come and stir everything up. Or you're about to send stuff out there that release it all to the public and see what happens. Like there's a lot of activity coming and information being translated as part of this after a period where things were really still and quiet for a long time. And bouquet, it's going to be good. Like you're going to be recognized for it, or it's going to bring some sort of like prize in its wake. It's not bad. Like none of this is bad. So the strength is there. So stirring it up will get you some accolades, or bringing these things out, or moving things along. There's something about that. Maybe you are the person who has enough strength to be able to bring a balanced message out somewhere where it needs to be, so that at the end everybody feels happy and positive with it. That's a possibility with those two energies as well. So let's see what tarot is going to tell us. So we're going to firstly look a little bit more about what is this occult mastery that we're talking about. Then we're going to have a look at what are the gifts and responsibilities associated with it, and then what's the shadow associated with it. So just let's see a little bit more about where is your strength being used to stir everything up or to respond to something. I mean, for some of you, it could be that you've had to be very patient and wait on something, and it's been stagnant for a while, and suddenly it all starts moving in your direction, and now you've got to suddenly go, okay, now I'm ready to go. Now I can do something. It could be that as well too if you're not stirring things up. But let's just see what tarot wants to tell us. Ace of Wands, Queen of Pentacles reversed, Ace of Pentacles reversed, Justice reversed, Knight of Pentacles, King of Cups reversed. Okay. I think there's quite a lot of people associated with this in one form or another, which might be why we have so much communication energy. But like I sort of feel like you've got 1, 2, 3 court cards, and then you've got Justice, which feels like a person, and the external world and so forth. First thing is it does wake everything up. This is the fire that wakes everything up. It's a new idea. It's a new opportunity. It's a new beginning in love, in creativity, in ambition, in any of the things that we think of with the wands. It is a idea and an energy rather than something material. So whatever communication you're either sending out or is coming to you, and I think for most of you it's coming to you, it's not yet about something materially there on offer. So it doesn't feel to me like it's like a job offer, if that's sort of, it doesn't feel like necessarily that, or if it is, it would be something that like was like a temporary job offer or something like that, that allows an opportunity, but you don't know yet where it's going to go. I mean, it is likely to go somewhere well, but this doesn't feel like even with Justice reversed, it doesn't feel like there's a material thing happening with this immediately. It will turn into something like that because it gives you the energy to go towards something that you believe in. And it's a very healing energy, but it doesn't feel like, so if you were feeling stuck at the moment and you're thinking like, where's my next job or where's my next promotion? I don't think right now that the strength in this energy is about that. It's about re-inspiring you. And so if it's coming to you, I feel like this is to re-inspire you and rededicate yourself to something that matters to you sort of spiritually. And that has a power of healing you. But it's not necessarily material. It's not contractual. It's not anything like that. If you have felt stuck by something that was unjust, then it will give you the power to move past that and heal that, and then to get recognized. But it's not an immediate, it's more that it inspires you to do it. If you are the one who's inspiring, if you're shaking everything up because things have been unjust and things have been stuck and nothing seems to be able to kind of build, then you're coming through like a trumpet with a new, a way of actually getting people on side to move with you and to heal this situation and move forward. There's a thing that a communications expert that I knew once told me about, which was a kind of a call to arms speech, which if I remember the structure was sort of something like you come in and you say, here's a problem. You go, here's what's wonderful about you guys and why you could fix it. And then here's what we need to do, and then here's how we don't. There's a call to arms at the end, like let's all get together and do it. It's sort of like both what's the problem, but also why are you the people to fix it. So that's a possibility as well too. You may be incredibly good at inspiring people and getting them to follow you, or you felt stuck and something's coming that, although it doesn't manifest instantly as exactly what you want or something that is secure, it is taking you towards that. So either way, it's sort of like you're coming into a position of strength around something to get others to follow you, or to be able to make the choices and take the steps and have the energy to move towards them rather than just sitting and stagnating. So, okay, what are the gifts and responsibilities involved in this? Page of Cups, Knight of Wands, the Lovers reversed, the Hierophant reversed, the Emperor. Okay, so I think you're meant to be a leader, actually. I think this is what this is really saying. I think by and large, whichever way it plays out, whether you're getting information that makes you see that you're being recognised and you can shake things up, or whether you're sending it out, or whether it's a bit of both, you get some information and that makes you take information out. I think you're going to shift a stagnant situation. This is part of your strength. At the right point, you can inspire people. You get the hearts and minds, you get the passion to move towards something and the courage, and you kind of point out, as I say, a bit like with this call to arms, what are the problems that you're trying to solve? What are the intractable situations between parties within some sort of system that isn't working anymore, so that you become the leader that comes up with a solution? So it's more like being a leader of a cause and taking on a CEO job, though it could end up with something like that. But I just feel for the most part it's more like being able to identify the problem and then give a potential solution and get people to follow you. That's what your occult mastery is now. It's to become an inspirational leader. So what shadow do you need to be aware of, pile 3? The Toll Keeper reversed, okay. The Star reversed. The Queen of Wands. The 8 of Cups. Now, the Toll Keeper is an additional card in this deck, and I want to very much go by what it expressly says rather than just doing it intuitively, because it's quite powerful. So the Toll Keeper is about a choice. So part of the shadow that you need to be aware of here is the Toll Keeper is about a price that has to be paid before you pass, before you get out of the sort of stagnant thing, before you move forward and get the results. There's some price. It says you stand before a threshold and the path ahead is tempting, full of knowledge, power or desire, but the Toll Keeper blocks your way. This is no gift. Nothing here is free. A decision carries a hidden cost, and when it's reversed, you have to be aware there could be deception, avoidance, a dangerous deal, unreadiness or false promise. So I think this is the shadow of this is moving forward before you're ready. You could give a false promise to others and people could feel let down. Or you maybe have to do this on your own because there could be others that say that they will be with you, but they're part of the problem rather than part of the solution. So it just depends on the situation, but you need to be aware it's a bit of a treacherous thing and you shouldn't move forward till you're sure of your direction. With the Star reverse, it could be that like you feel like such a sense of frustration, you move forward on the slightest information and you ride forth with everything. And that's a bit of a risk if you don't know all the implications of it. So it's either be careful who you trust or don't move forward till you're ready. This is important to how you self-actualize. It's important to who you are, but there's some emotional baggage you have from something that you need to let go of so that you don't move forward preemptively. So there's something, the Coffin is really the important card here. It's whatever the stagnant situation is, you have to understand the occult mastery and fortune is going to help you release that and lead others to be released from it, but you have to do it in the right timing. So you can't just rush forward with the raw power. You need the better angels within to get the timing right. This is a lot about timing because there's some emotional baggage associated with it for you. Okay, so let's see some occult approaches or energies that could help you. Journey. Okay. So this could literally see this as a journey. So take, like don't rush anything. And the rider becomes a very important card there. What is the journey? What are you trying to reach for and thinking about that? Otherwise, shamanic journeying could be helpful for you, because that talks a lot about shamanic journeying as getting in touch with what you really need to do and understanding your power and how to best use that. And then we have intelligence. Okay, so scanning, getting an environment scan, understanding this particularly so I think the journey is particularly the case if you feel that you might move preemptively because of emotional stuff, to get within and to know, could clear that out so that you have the right timing. If you think the toll keeper here is more about people you can't trust, this is using kind of almost remote viewing, intelligence, environment scanning to know what you're dealing with. A bit of both is probably great, but I think it depends very much on what you think that energy is. As to which of these is the best modality to use. Yet, let's see what messages come to you from beyond the veil. Roots. Okay, this came up for one of the others. You need to be really grounded. This is right. Don't let emotions or the impatience of the time make you do that. You need to be grounded. You need to know you're on firm, like the rider needs firm ground to ride on. Otherwise, it's going to be a bit of a messy journey. And staircase, watch your step. Yeah, there's something in this. It's a bit treacherous. Either, as I say, you get too impatient and go through it forward too quickly, or there are treacherous people around. So it's kind of like ground yourself and watch your step. You are able to do what you need to do. If you feel that you're ungrounded, journey and work it out ahead of time before you move forward in the material world. If you feel that the environment's a problem, then be careful what you do. So it's going to depend on which of those you think is right. And it might shift over time, because this is your occult mastery. Sometimes it might be that you have to manage your own impatience, and sometimes you just might have to deal with not particularly good players. And it's like it may be toggling between the two as well that we're talking about. Okay, let's get some astrology energy for you as well. Okay, 6th house, service to others, day-to-day work, your routines. North node, there's something about this does need to be towards the service of others. It needs to become a routine. It needs to be grounded. Leo, your creative energy, this fiery energy, needs to become almost routine. Almost like, and it needs to be in the service of others. That is the best way to use this. And we have the 10th house in career. A lot of this is in work or career, I have to say. Capricorn, power, Jupiter. This is going to expand your power. You are strong. That's why you started with strength. You are going to become a leader. You are. Like, there's no two ways about it. The issue, though, is to become the leader you would want to be, not the leader that others don't want anymore. They followed you and then they're disillusioned by, or who's suddenly been beguiled by people that are not to be trusted. So this has got to do with the getting of power. Sometimes with the occult mastery, it's the getting of wisdom. With this, it's the getting of power. It's important to have wisdom in how you use it, but this is about power, material power, leadership power. Okay. So last but not least, particularly for this reading, I'm just going to ask you to choose a number between 1 and 3, and we're just going to have a very powerful occult energy to guide you and or to give you a bit of an idea about how to deal with things from the Deep, Dark and Dangerous decks. So just pause if you have to choose a number between 1 and 3, because I'm about to start to deal out. So for number 1, we get werewolf. Okay. For number 2, we get hell, the goddess hell. And for number 3, so not hell as in Hell, hell as in the goddess hell. And for number 3, we have Anubis. Oh, wow. Yeah, there is something very much like this is about power. This is very underworldy. This is like the dark, as I say, the sort of the shadow power that is not evil, but is power and does have a huge impact. And that's kind of really shown by these 3 characters. So if you chose number 1, werewolf, change, this is about change in some way. Societal change, organisational change, political change. It has to do with change, and you may have to shape shift. I feel this is particularly pointing back to this. Sometimes you're going to have to be the angel and sometimes you're going to have to be the lion. And it just depends on the situation. And you need to be able to feel in control of both. So I think that's it. There's a lot about internal control and internal balance that's important for you. If you chose number 2, Hell, she is a goddess of the underworld. So again, this is like the shadowy power that like this is very much a when you become, you shake everything up, you stir everything up, and you get the recognition, you become the leader, which is what I think this is about. You have to know your own shadow. You have to know that the underworld to yourself so that you don't become the thing that you might have despised or you fought against, and also so that you're not beguiled by that. I think she will help you that. Accepting what you need to accept in terms of timing and the situation you're in and what the role is that you've been given, but also an understanding of your own shadow and how to balance it. And not dissimilarly, if you chose number 3 with Anubis, respect. Anubis is the god of the dead, the big transition, a big change. This changes everything for you. You will get respect from it, but you need to respect what power means as well and what strength means as well. So that, as I say, you become the good leader that you want to be, as opposed to you become just another version of, power eventually being corrupted. So there's a lot here for you about managing your own power within a power situation and also understanding what that brings towards you. So I hope that resonates for you. I hope you enjoyed the reading. If so, please like the video and subscribe. If you care to share in the comments, I'd love to hear. Otherwise, I hope to see you in future readings.